Hello and welcome to another pattern recognition video featuring simplification patterns, and these will be rated from 1000 to 1250. Now, if you're under 1000 rated player, you can still try these out. You may be able to solve them, or at least you'll have an idea of what type of tactics you'll need to learn and play as you move up to 1000 rated and higher. So let's begin here. I'll try and do at least 10 puzzles and pause at any time if you need to think. In this problem, we had the queen, white's queen was checking black's king, and the bishop blocked here, blocked the check. Now, when it comes to simplifying into a winning game, end game, or a middle game, any type or any part of the game, you want to count up the material and see who's in the lead to begin with. So here we have 5 pawns versus 7. So black has 2 extra pawns, but we have 4 minor pieces and they only have 3. So we are ahead by the equivalent of what? 1 pawn. So let's double check that. We have an extra piece, but they're ahead by 2 pawns. So they have 2 pawns for our knight. But our knight here is pinned to the king. And it's under attack by this pawn. So white being ahead, we want to exchange down material. So how would you go about doing that? Hopefully you found this move, and pause if you need more time. The queen is lined up on the king here. So we could go ahead and capture that bishop. And it looks like it would be a checkmate, and it would be if this queen wasn't guarding here, guarding the bishop. So once we capture, the queen will be forced to capture. Then our knight that's under attack by the pawn can capture, and the king would recapture. And we would end up ahead with an extra bishop going into the game. So capture, recapture, and then if the king captures, well, we have that extra bishop. That should be enough to win, hopefully, especially having the bishop pair. All right, on to the next problem. That was rated 1167. Now we have the white king has just captured a pawn here. So let's look at the material. We have 2 pawns versus 2, rook versus rook, but the imbalance is a bishop versus a rook here, or this rook, whichever one. So we're ahead. So any trades would definitely help us. And we have this blockading rook here. So if we could move that out of the way, our pawn could try and run up here and promote. And our king should be able to stop this pawn. All right. Well, one thing that's very important before you make any move is to look at checks, captures, and threats. Checks first as they're the most forcing, and I say this all the time, but it's just very important. Look at those checks. So with black to move, what if we go here, delivering a check to the king? Our pawn could be captured, but then we would pick off the rook. So that would force the rook to capture us. Our king would recapture. We'd be protecting the pawn. This pawn can start running. Our rook could go ahead and block if it needs to here. Block the pawn from promoting. And that should do it for us. So there we go. And after everything, the dust is cleared. let's look at the position again. Well, we're ahead by a rook versus a bishop, and we both have 2 pawns. So, as I said, this pawn can try and run towards promotion. At the same time, our rook can guard that pawn and defend this promotion square. All right. And of course, there's also this mate threat now. All right, on to the next problem. Let's see here. The rook has just dropped back, defending the pawn. The question is, material is even. And when that happens, when the material is even, before you go exchanging down further, you need to make sure that you're going to be okay in the resulting endgame. And how do you do that? How do you even figure that out? Well, I guess first we could look at what happens if we go ahead and take that rook. The king would be forced to recapture. And then we have to look at these pawns. It would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 moves for black's A pawn to promote here on A1. And it would take our pawn 4 moves to promote here. So we would promote first. And then we should be able to swing down here. And go after that pawn. But we have to make sure, we have to check and see if the king can stop that pawn. If the king ends up here, you can use the square of the pawn to see if the king will be able to stop our pawn. And apparently not, because the king will be outside of this square. So we should be winning. All right, here we go. Now, something that could throw a wrench in the works is this pawn running as well. But then our king can go over and stop that. So capture, our pawn starts running, and we'll get there first. So, if they move there, we go here. If he moves here, we promote, and we're guarding that square. So we would capture if the pawn would move there. All right, on to the next problem. Okay, who is ahead here? Now, white has just moved a knight up here to F3. Let's look at the pawns. We have 7 versus, 8? So we're down by a pawn. Down by a pawn. And I think we lost a rook versus a bishop. So we're down an exchange as well. All right, so we need to find some way here to go after a winning simplification. All right. Checks, captures, and threats. Do we have any checks on the king? No, nothing, no way to check this king at the moment. So captures. Now, a lot of times you can find a tactic if there are any unprotected pieces. But, this knight is protected by the queen here. There's an unprotected pawn. So maybe we can use our queen that's lined up on that and aimed at this rook as well. So maybe we move our knight here and attack. So we have a threat. We didn't have any checks. There were not any good captures at the moment, so we have to threaten something. So we move our knight here, threatening to capture this knight along with the queen. So we have 2 attackers, only 1 defender. Now once we move our knight, if they capture, well then we would be able to capture the rook with check. The king would have to move here. Then we could pick off the queen. The king would recapture, and that gives us time to go after this knight. So did you get all that? And remember, when you're trying to do these problems, try and solve as much in your head as you can. You know, because in a game, you're going to have to do a lot of calculation, and pattern recognition will help you start to see these patterns and recognize them, so you won't have to calculate as much. You'll just know that these patterns work just from experience, from solving all these puzzles. And try to go over puzzles more than once. I've mentioned this before. If you just do a puzzle once and forget about it, you won't remember much. But if you go over the same puzzles multiple times, it'll help you remember those puzzles better and be able to use them in your own games. All right, here we go. So now we can capture with a check. We can pick off that queen, and then we can go after the knight. And we just end up ahead in material there. So we have an extra bishop. Okay, here we go. Problem number 5. Rook is attacking our queen. So we need to do something here. And we do have a possible threat. Maybe here and here with a queen. I mean, I guess our knight could defend that by going here and covering that checkmate threat. But at the moment, our queen is under attack. We want to look for checks first. So do we have any good checks? I mean, if we capture that, the king will take us. If we capture the rook, the other rook will take us. We don't want to go here or here. We'll just be captured. So maybe, well, also, as I mentioned, what I should have done first is look at the material. Who is ahead in this position? Well, we have 1 extra pawn. And other than that, material is even. But we have that 1 extra pawn. So if we make an even trade, we'll be okay. Now, something else we have to keep an eye on is possible back rank mate threats. If we could attack the king along the back rank there, we have the rook possibility of going here. But at the moment, the back rank is guarded by a pair of rooks. So if our queen's under attack, we're ahead in material already by 1 pawn. We want to trade pieces down. We could think about moving our knight here and attacking their queen. But if we attack their queen, what if they move the queen here with a check? Our rook would have to capture. Then they could take our queen, giving us time to remove our rook. All right, so this one's a little trickier. I have to see if there are any surprise tactics here. Uh, hmm. Something else we have to think of. If we just attack with a rook like this, well, we need to guard our back rank as well, because if the rook captures here, threatens to capture the knight. All right, maybe I'm overcomplicating things. So, back to the beginning. Do we have any good checks? It doesn't look like it. Any good captures? Well, if we capture the rook, they'll just recapture, if our queen captures. Do we capture this pawn? No, because they'll just take our queen. Oh, one possibility. Okay. Here's a possibility. Maybe we need to throw a little sacrifice in there, a temporary queen sacrifice. So what if we capture this pawn? If the king takes, then our knight can jump over here, forking the king and the queen, and then go after the queen, and we would grab another pawn. So that looks good for us. Now, we also have to see, well, what would happen if the king just runs? So if we capture, he doesn't have to take the queen, but he would be forced into the corner, and that's not so good. Then what do we do? We'd be ahead of pawn, so I'm going to go with that. All right, and that just helped us grab an extra pawn and get the queens off the board. So, 5 more problems to go. A rook is centralized, attacking this rook here. What do? We have the queen and the rook piling up on it, and we only have one defender. Our queen is the only defender. So, what can we do? We also have this battery aimed up here. All right, before we begin, let's look at the material count and see who's ahead and who's behind here. So we have 5 pawns versus their 5 pawns. We have a bishop pair, they have a knight and a bishop. And we both have a queen and 2 rooks. So material is even. They do have this pawn majority over here, which could be dangerous in the end game. Let's see. We could try and go after this pawn with bishop or queen once we trade this off. Rook takes rook. So maybe that would work. All right, let's take a look at it. Right now, we have to deal with this. Our rook is being attacked by two attackers. We only have one defender. And we want to trade down material. But since everything's even, we want to try and grab some material while we're doing it. So maybe we trade off the rooks. You know, the rook would probably recapture, attacking our queen. Then that would give us time to go after this pawn. Maybe something like that. Now, do we have another option of just bringing in another defender here? So, rook captures, queen captures. So maybe another defender. The rook captures. We capture. Queen captures. Our rook captures. Then we're targeting this pawn. The opponent could defend that. But then what? So that's a possibility. But I don't know. If that takes time to bring that rook to the center, maybe we just capture. Then if they capture, we go after this pawn. So I think I'm going to go with that. Nope, they don't like that. All right, do they want the rook to come in? Nope, they don't like that either. All right, I hope you're having better luck on this one. Maybe you found something that I did not. Maybe we need to chase that knight first. No. Oh, or maybe we go this way. Capture the bishop and attack their queen. So then they take our queen. We take their queen. And then we're attacking this rook and the other rook here. So maybe that works. All right, that's what they wanted. So now we grab that rook and we just come out ahead in that a piece. All right, that one was a little trickier. That's why you want to do these puzzles, so these patterns become more familiar. All right, on to the next one. We have a rook attacking our queen. What do we want to do now? Well, let's look at the piece count. We have white has 6 pawns versus 5 pawns. So we're ahead by 1 pawn. They have the bishop pair. We have a knight and a bishop. So material's even. We do have a rook and a knight over in the corner doing nothing. And our back rank is in trouble. So if we move our queen, we have to watch out for a back rank mate here. So that's dangerous. All right. Huh. Looks tricky. If we move that queen, there's a back rank mate. So what can we do here? Huh. Look for checks, captures, threats. We could capture and check, but then the queen could just recapture, and then we have that back rank mate threat again. And we're down in material. So oh, look at all the checks. So this is how important checks are. All right. We could just take that and deliver a check. So we go up a piece, deliver a check. That gives us time to do something about this back rank threat. We could bring our knight up and have our rook guard the back rank. All right. Capture with check. Oh, and now if they're going to offer a queen trade, we might as well get the queens off the board as well. So after the king recaptures, we're just up by an extra knight, and we got to move that knight off the back rank so our rook can prevent this back rank mate threat. All right, here we go. All right, in this next problem, we have 7 pawns. They have 7 as well. Minor pieces, we have the bishop pair and a knight, 2 rooks and a queen. So material is even. The question is, who has the safer king? Do we have checks available? So any checks? No checks. What about captures? We have, you want to look for unprotected pieces or pawns. So this knight looks unprotected at the moment. Our queen could pick that off and defend our unprotected bishop. All right, I think that's how we want to go. We could capture. I think that'll work. We just go after this knight. So capture the knight. Our knight will be pinned to our queen, but at the moment it's protected by a pawn as well. And then we're also threatening to capture their bishop. So that looks good to me, unless I'm missing anything. All right, now we can go after this. And then, if we're exchanging down more material, we have to keep that. If they capture, we have to capture. So they'll be able to take that pawn, but if they do, then we could move our queen here and pin their queen to their king. And that looks pretty dangerous as well. So, yeah, if the queen captures, we could go here. And they'll be forced to take us, because if they don't, if the king comes up to defend, well then we could add another attacker on that queen, and then they'll be forced to trade queens. but we just end up with this extra bishop. All right, 2 more problems to go. Let's finish this out. Okay, and feel free to leave comments if you want more difficult problems, less difficult. Any input is great. Whether it's positive or negative input, I'm always open to any comments. Don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. I'm not going to get upset if even if it's a negative comment. All right, what do we have here? 8 pawns versus 8. So all the pawns are on the board. We have 3 minor pieces versus 3. So all the material is even. Do we have any checks? No. Captures. Do they have anything unprotected that we can just capture? No, they have an unprotected pawn, but we're not aimed at that. This is lined up down through here against our rook. Anyway, black has just moved their knight up here. So now it's our turn. How can we simplify down and get ahead at the same time? Well, is there anything we can threaten? We don't have any good checks. We don't have anything good to capture. So now we have to look at threats. Well, we can move our knight up here or here and threaten their queen. So that's a possibility. Where would that queen go? Well, if we attack the queen, it could step forward and then target this knight, and then possibly this rook as well. So, does this work? If we attack the queen, and this is something to be aware of as well, in a position when there's a king or a queen and they're very limited on their spaces. If it's a king and they don't have many squares they can move to, well, then you can start looking for a possible checkmate. But with a queen or other pieces, sometimes you can trap a piece. So we might be able to try and trap this queen. If we go here, and the queen moves up, attacking our knight, well, then we could go here, pushing a pawn and attacking the queen, at the same time protecting that knight with our bishop. But then the queen would be able to move left or right. Well, let's see. Let's look at that. If we attack, the queen moves up, we attack with the pawn, the queen might not be able to move in this direction because of her pawns and knight and queen. Everything's covered. If the queen goes the other way, the queen could go here, targeting this pawn. So maybe that doesn't work. I don't know. I'm still thinking there's something going on with that queen. An attack on the queen, but maybe I'm overlooking something else. That still seems good. Attack the queen. The queen will have to move forward. Our knight is unprotected. So maybe we attack it. The queen would have to move here. And then this pawn would come under attack. Man. All right, I'm not sure about this one. I don't want to drag the video out too long. And maybe this is not what they want. Our queen is kind of sitting off on the side there, so maybe we need to do something better with that queen. Let's see if this does anything. Okay, that's what they wanted. Now it's under attack by the queen, so we have to defend. I would think we just move up here, defending with the bishop and attacking the queen again. Oh, and our knight is guarding that pawn. Okay, yeah, so... All right, so that's how they want to play it. Now, we can go ahead and capture, and we'll be attacking the knight next. So we come out ahead in that crazy exchange. All right, well, on to the final problem. I hope you had better luck on that one. That was a little more tricky. Okay, we have a bishop pinning the, or not pinning, forking the queen and the rook, but it looks like we could capture that bishop with our knight. So is that best to do, or should we go after their queen? Because we're trying to simplify down into a winning endgame. So let's look at the material. We have 5 pawns. They have 6, so they're ahead by 1 pawn. But everything else is even. So we need to go ahead by some material. All right. Well, what if we just take the queen? If we do that, if they take our queen, well then we can grab their bishop and we'll just come out ahead there. Or will we? Because then our rook will be under attack. So let's double check that. If we capture their queen and they take our queen, our rook is still under attack. And if we run with our rook, they can take our bishop. Maybe we need to capture with our queen. Like this. Maybe that's better. Capture with the queen. We're attacking and defending our rook. So if they take our queen, then our knight will be able to recapture. All right, so we just come out ahead. What? Now we have an extra knight. Okay, well, that was 10 problems. So as always, feel free to leave comments, like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching and have a super chess day.